Okay, everyone in their places with bright, sunshiny faces. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of August 6, 2020. My name is Gary Hirsch, and I'm the chairman of the commission. The Planning Commission is a citizen body appointed by City Council. The commission is empowered to make final decisions on certain matters, with those being appealable to City Council. On other matters, the commission acts in an advisory role to council, with the council making the final decision. You will have an opportunity to address the commission during the public hearing portion of the meeting, and your testimony is very much appreciated and encouraged. The commission acts from a written agenda. You will need to fill out a yellow speaker card and give it to staff if you wish to speak on an item. Copies of the agenda and speaker cards are located at the table just inside the door. At this time, I'll ask you to silence your cell phones, other electronic devices. Thank you. There are 7 members appointed to the Planning Commission, and at this time, I'll ask commissioners to introduce themselves and state the district they are representing, beginning on my far left.
Martin Nowakowski, I represent the Yucca District.
Warren Wilfong, Ocotillo District.
Rick Harper, Saguaro District.
Al Lennox, Vice Chair, Beryl District.
Vern Crow, Cactus District.
Ed Nyberg, Cholla District.
And I am Gary Hirsch, a resident of the Cactus District, a mayoral appointee representing the city at large. Let the record show that all members of the Planning Commission are attending this evening. The Planning Commission receives assistance and guidance from the Planning Division and the City Attorney's Office. Ms. Collins, would you please introduce city staff that are present with us this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my right is Diana Figueroa. She's our management assistant. To my left is Jim Gruber. He is our senior deputy city attorney. And beside Mr. Gruber is George Gellert, and he is our senior planning project manager. And I'm Lisa Collins, the planning administrator and interim development services director.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience this evening that wishes to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay. Hearing none, we'll now move on to approval of the minutes. And commissioners, we have minutes for the Planning Commission meeting, regular meeting of July 16th, 2020. Does the chair hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of regular meeting as of July 16th, 2020. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is passed. The minutes are approved. Ms. Collins, are there any withdrawals or continuances this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Items number 1, 2, and 3 will be continued to your hearing on August 20th. Those are Palinsave Conditional Use Permit CUP 2008, Northern Parkway Storage Conditional Use Permit CUP 20-11, and a zoning text amendment ZTA 20-01 regarding group homes.
Okay, continued to the August 20th meeting. Mr. Gruber, do we need a motion?
Chair, members of the commission, no, you don't need a motion at this time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to public hearing items. The purpose of a public hearing is to provide interested parties with an opportunity to present their testimony for the commission's consideration. The commission will follow the same procedures for each item. This evening we have 2. The chair will call the application number and the name of the applicant. Staff will present the report and answer questions from the commission. The applicant will be given an opportunity to make presentation, answer questions from the commission, Other persons who wish to testify will be asked to do so and answer questions from the commission. Would then have an opportunity for the applicant to present closing comments. Staff will be asked for any final comments. And tonight, the two items we have for public hearing, the commission will not be voting this evening. This is a public hearing. This will be the second public hearing on this item. So I want to assure the public we are not voting this evening. We're here to get your input and take public testimony. I would like to address very briefly the topic of venue. Arizona state statute requires that the municipalities, when they go to change something regarding their general plan, have two public hearings at different locations, a minimum of two public hearings, and they must be at different locations. I realize that this particular location may not be the most particularly convenient to some of you, particularly knowing the address and location of the items before us this evening. But we're under some restraints due to the COVID-19 restrictions implemented by the state government and the governor. We have several facilities throughout the city of Glendale. Unfortunately, there were problems with them not being sufficiently equipped to handle the IT, the video, the websites, and so forth. The other issue was the social distancing. And if you think about those properties that you might be familiar with, for example, the Adult Center, it just simply doesn't address all of the things that needed to be done to meet the social distancing and technical IT requirements to pull these meetings off. The commission and the city have given opportunity to the public to insert their comments via email, via recorded statement, and via your personal attendance this evening. So I hope everyone feels that they've been given ample opportunity. Again, this is the second public hearing. There will be at least one more. So with that, I'll ask Ms. Collins, would you like to make a presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the item before us this evening is Trevino at Glen Lakes, and it is a major general plan amendment, 20-01. I'm also going to present the information associated with the zoning case 19-17. So like you said, this is the second required public hearing. And the vicinity map shows the location of what is called Trevino at Glen Lakes in association with City Hall. So it's a little north and east of City Hall. So again, this is a public hearing this evening. There's no action. It is a major general plan amendment from parks, open space to medium density residential designated on the general plan as 3.5 to 5 dwelling units per acre. And as you stated, this is required by state statute, so I have the notation there. And the point of this is to promote citizen participation. And major general plan amendments impact the entire community, so it's an opportunity for everyone to get out. I realize with technology that might not be necessary, but that's the intent of the statute in any case. So the second part is the rezoning. This is currently zoned A1 agricultural, and the rezoning request would be to R16 PRD, which is a single-family planned residential development. The general plan shows the area there, and it is parks open space. So the existing general plan, again, is parks open space and medium density residential 5 on that exhibit. So this exhibit just goes through and shows you kind of what's going on in the area. Once again, the existing general plan is parks open space. The existing zoning is A1 agricultural. The proposal is to change this to a medium density residential. That would be the general plan designation. And then the accompanying zoning would be R16 PRD. So if we look at the graphic so the inserted area is where the development is proposed. To the north is medium density residential 12, which is 8 to 12 dwelling units to the acre. To the west is, again, 3.5 to 5 dwelling units per acre, which is proposed for this site. To the east is MDR 3.5, which is a little lower, 2.5 to 3.5 dwelling units per acre. And then south of this is a high-density residential at 12 to 20 dwelling units per acre. And then on the other side of northern Manistee Ranch, that is also has a general plan designation of medium-high density residential, 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. The other graphic I wanted to show you, and you've seen most of these, if not all of them, before at the previous meeting. This does show city parks existing and proposed. So within a 1-mile area, there's approximately 28 acres of city parks. The park being proposed here, which is linear. There's a connection all the way around the 42-acre property, and 2 larger pieces on the east and the west side. So it's 10 acres in total. So here are some photos that we're going to show you the street view. The first one is going to be the northwest corner. The second group will be the northeast corner, then the southeast and southwest. So these are pictures looking in all directions up at the northwest corner of the property, the northeast corner of the property, the southeast corner of the property, and the southwest corner of the property. So all of the public notification requirements have been met, as is indicated on this slide. Also, the unique part about a major general plan amendment are the 60-day letters advising agencies of the major general plan amendment, and we received no comment. So the findings for the general plan amendment portion of this is that this provides residential and open space land uses, and as you saw from the previous slides, is consistent with the surrounding uses in the area. The residential developments range from single family to multifamily and PAD, which is planned area development, and there's commercial development in the area, so there will be services for the existing and proposed residential development. So there are requirements to have general plan findings, and the findings are the following: that the land use of the traffic impact analysis will be ensure circulation is safe for the traveling public, and that is in process. The housing, this provides a new neighborhood that can encourage other investment in the area, and the housing type and site plan proposed in the PRD, again the planned residential development, does promote interaction between new and existing neighborhoods with the park open space surrounding the property. Community preservation and revitalization, this does provide an infill development to enhance existing neighborhoods, and from an economic vitality standpoint, this provides a new development to revitalize a property that was costly to the city, as we've talked about in the past. And connectivity, there is a continuous walking path and public park proposed in this project. Public facilities, we do have a letter of adequate school facilities that's been provided to the city. And in terms of environmental sustainability, the City of Glendale does place an emphasis on new technologies, and we do encourage recharging devices for electric vehicles in each home. I'm going to briefly go through the zoning request because it all sort of fits together, obviously. So again, this is A1 agriculture currently zoned, and the request is R16 PRD, which again is a single-family residential planned residential development. And this is the zoning map that's required for this project, showing A1 and the R16 PRD. The site plan showing the proposed development of 173 lots. Entry theme wall in this photo. And then we have housing products. That's a requirement of the planned residential development to really have this put together so that the commission and the council know what is being proposed for the property. So there's several different models here in various configurations. Just go through these quickly. So the planned residential development does require findings. The zoning ordinance does require that. And so the findings are the following: that the proposal is consistent in substance and location with the development objectives of the general plan. The proposal is compatible with other existing and planned development in the area, as we saw. The proposal meets or exceeds the city's subdivision design expectations regarding planning, architecture, landscaping, building materials and colors, and screening of mechanical, as you saw in the entry feature and the home models. The proposal will result in a quality living environment and accommodate desired lifestyles. The proposed project amenities will include pedestrian trails, bike paths, landscaped areas, entry features, decorative theme walls, parks, playgrounds, and other public or commonly owned open space that are adequate and appropriate for this development. And the open space area that's surrounding this would be dedicated to the city, so that would be a city park that is used by this development and in particular the surrounding neighborhoods. And the type and quality of house products will be consistent with the intended character of the development. So again, this is the second required public hearing. There's no action required. This will be heard again on August 20th. At that time, the commission may vote on this, or as they desire, they may take action. So again, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff this evening? Commissioner Crowe. Oh, and gentlemen, I've been advised that you really need to get tight on these microphones. They don't have the range that what we're used to.
Yeah, Ms. Collins, do we know what the position is of the Parks and Recreations Board in regards to this move?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Crowe, we've been working with the Parks Department with Jim Burke, and they are the liaisons with the Parks Commission, so I'm assuming that they've communicated with them. That would be his role.
And do we know that the reason that this fell off in regards to the number of folks that played on the course, and this may be before your time, but I'm just wondering if the reason that it fell off is in regards to playtime is that it wasn't kept up. And of course, you know, you go out and you want to play on a nice course, but if it isn't kept up, they would just automatically play somewhere else, I would think. So that's the two questions I have, Mr. Chairman, as to whether or not Parks and Recs agree with this, and what was the real reason that this went down. I mean, I'm sure that I can't imagine that the city would think that it would be self-sustaining. I mean, it would bring enough play to pay for itself. I don't, because it's not that big of a course. But anyway, that's the two questions that I have.
So,
Ms. Collins.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Crowe, while I don't have specific answers, and yes, it was before my time, but I understand that the cost of the maintenance was more than the city could handle, and that the number of players had gone down, and that nationwide golf is declining to some degree. So I can get some additional information for you on the specifics of that, but as I read through and talk to people that are very familiar with this, that's what I understand. It was just, it ended up being too costly for the city to maintain.
Is it, do you actually have a statement from Parks and Rec that say they are in agreement with this?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Crowe, the director has been involved in all of these meetings, and they have worked with the co-applicant, I guess I would say, the person that's worked on the development plans and has worked hand in hand with them on how the park would specifically be developed. So yes, they're very aware of it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Thank you. 10 acres of park space, that sounds good. how much of it is actual usable space, not retention, not landscaped? Just curious on that, based on the design. I got 3 questions. You mentioned that this project would bring other investment into the area. Any plans, any targeted areas we're talking about? What kind of attractions, investment opportunities would that bring? And I've heard it a couple times, this property is costly to the city. Is there a cost now to the city without the golf course being run that's impacting the general fund at all? Those are my 3 inquiries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Nowakowski. In terms of the park and retention areas, I don't have a specific figure for you. I can tell you that most of the park spaces and most of the open spaces that are provided in subdivisions do have a dual purpose for recreation and retention. In this case, all of the open space is situated so that it can be shared, so it's not behind a wall for just this subdivision. So I can tell you that about the open space. In terms of taking care of the land right now, yes, there's a rather significant cost associated with it. I understand it's between $18,000 and $20,000 monthly to water and maintain the grass. So it's a significant cost to the city at this point. And I apologize, I know you had a 3rd question, but I'm not sure that I recall specifically. Maybe I answered it.
Yes, my other question was in regards to other investment coming into the area. Is there any, because I'm thinking of the area, and if there's any large vacant property that we could attract an investment, are we talking vacant shopping centers? What kind of investment opportunities would this amount of housing bring to a neighborhood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner, for repeating your question. It's a general statement. There is property along the north side of northern and south of this property that could benefit from this. Whenever you have a new development, it does encourage even other single-family homes in the area to invest. So that's what I was referring to.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, commissioners? Commissioner Wilfong.
Okay, I got a couple of questions here. When you figured out the density, you used the 42 acres. When they figured out the sale price of the property, they used the 36 acres. Shouldn't that number be the same to figure out both cost and density? Because right here on the website, wrong password.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, the way that residential density is calculated, and if you look across the street at Manistee Ranch, it is calculated on gross acreage. And so that's how the number is arrived at. And specifically in a planned residential development, it suggests that there be public and private open space. So there's a little bit of private open space within the development, but it does discuss dedicating land to the city, and that is the way density is calculated for residential in
Yeah, but
terms
now-
of the general plan.
Now, shouldn't the sale price included the 42 acres as a sale price? Because they have it down here as $180,000 per acre, but they're only using it at a 36 number.
Commissioner Wilfong, that may be, but the general plan states that you use the gross acreage. And so
For density.
I can't really respond to how the property is really being sold, but that's how the density is
Okay,
calculated.
two more questions. So how many times in the past has a developer gave back acreage for a park?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, I can look into that, but there are parklands that are dedicated to the city. There are school sites that are dedicated in a development. So I don't think it's uncommon, but I'm happy to look into the specifics for you.
So this is a 10-acre site, right, for the park?
The park's approximately 10 acres. I understand it may be a little over 10 acres.
So according to your Parks and Recreation Department, it costs $2,600 per acre annually to maintain. So we're talking $25,000 a year to maintain this 10-acre park, where it's costing that same, less amount to maintain the golf course.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, I'm happy to speak with our Parks Department and get that calculation for you, but I do not know that number.
It just seems like this development was handed over in a silver platter, and the city of Glendale went over backwards for this development and didn't really care about the residents. I'm done.
Any additional questions or comment, Commissioner? Okay. Commissioners, any additional questions for staff? Commissioner Crowe?
Yeah, Ms. Collins, I wrote down that you said the water for the site was $20,000 a month. And I think Mr. Wilfong just said it was $20,000 a year. It's $20,000 a month, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Crowe, it's $20,000 a month when you calculate the water and the maintenance.
Right.
Correct.
And the little park that you're talking about is $25,000 a year.
That may be the calculation. Apparently, Mr. Wilfong, Commissioner Wilfong has
I'll
looked
stand
into
corrected.
that.
Yeah, big difference.
It is, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions, Commissioners? Okay, then we'll move on to the public hearing portion. And I want to remind the public that we're going to hear Glendale Lakes Major General Plan Amendment MGPA 20-01 and Glen Lakes Subdivision Rezoning Application ZON 19-17 contiguously. But when we vote, there will be two separate motions, one for the GPA and one for the zoning action. But for purposes of expediting the hearing and giving the public an opportunity to speak, they'll be combined this evening. With that, the chair will now open the public hearing for Glen Lakes Major General Plan Amendment MGPA 20-01 and Glen Lakes Subdivision Rezoning Application ZON 19-17. If you wish to speak on an item, you will need to state your name and address for the record, be brief, to the point, avoid repetition. The chair does reserve the right to limit the length of your testimony. All exhibits shown to the commission will become part of the permanent record and be submitted to the file. If you have groups, you may want to designate a speaker and have different speakers speak on different topics as opposed to being redundant. Applause or any other disruptions that would delay the hearing will not be tolerated. So with that, I believe that we do have electronic email comments and recorded comments, which we'd like to enter into the record. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have some comments that Diana Figueroa, our management assistant, will provide.
Okay, please read those into the record.
Thank you. The first letter is from Jane Bachman in the Beryl District. Planning Commissioners, a striking contrast in the two Glendale City Councils, the 1979 Council versus the 2020 Council. The 1979 Council listened to the will of the Glendale citizens and took action to buy Glen Lakes. The 2020 Council majority did not listen to the will of the citizens. They are taking action to sell Glen Lakes. When a development was proposed at Glen Lakes in 1979, residents protested the development. Just 2 months later, the city sold $1.5 million of park bonds to purchase Glen Lakes Golf Course for the city and for its citizens. A formal document and ordinance number 1090 was created to purchase a public park for a golf course. In other words, we read that Glen Lakes is a public park. There were years when revenue from Glen Lakes supported Parks and Recreation and its programs. Glen Lakes has been a revenue producer, unlike other parks. Its revenue in 2005 was close to $900,000. Tiger Woods hosted a clinic at Glen Lakes. His foundation contributed to the outstanding overhead canopy at the driving range. We value Glen Lakes and its open space. Having open space increases our quality of life. Councilmember Clark echoes this sentiment in a Glendale Independent article on parks. She said, in addition to boosting the quality of life, our current residents, parks can be a draw to new residents or companies considering moving to Glendale. A good point, Ms. Clark, as we have an upscale housing development, Olive Villages, going in near Glen Lakes. Those higher income residents living in a high-density development will appreciate having the amenity of a golf course and green space nearby. A recent council meeting was held about consolidating parks. That would be a public policy decision. It's a challenge to remove a park from a community where residents have chosen to live because of that nearby park. It was City Manager Phelps who made this comment. City Council Member Clark chimed in to say she would never support removing parks. Citizens feel the same way. We thought our golf course would always be there. We do not want it developed into housing. We know Glen Lakes can offer more to the community when it is made a multi-use park. We presented a business plan to the city that reflected how the golf course could become sustainable over time. Now the Glen Lakes property is being rezoned for the purpose of building a 173-home subdivision. We have not been asked to provide any input about what the subdivision should be. We were told this is what it will be. 173 lots on 42.8 acres with an 8-acre public park. Nearby residents are concerned their quality of life will be negatively affected. First of all, with the loss of the 42.8 acres of open space, a big chunk of our neighborhood that has been there over 50 years. Lack of open space, more people, a busy park, busy local streets, traffic congestion, overpopulated schools, a total of 453 homes added within a mile of Glen Lakes over the next 2 years. We question the narrow public park, one that is unfenced and will be shared with HOA. Will it be an asset or negative for our quiet neighborhoods? Citizens have made it known to the council we want to keep the golf course. We have not been listened to. None of this, our petitions, our forums, our plans to make the golf course multi-purpose, our businesses who offer to do improvements for free, our golf program for youths and schools that was denied use of the golf course, our neighborhood meetings where we were shut down and told we were here to discuss a public park. The shutdown of Glen Lakes Golf Course occurred without the advisory of the Parks and Rec Board. We were told council did not believe it necessary. We want to keep the Glen Lakes Golf Course and to commit the resources to maintaining the city asset as the city should. We are asking the commission to vote no on both the rezoning issues on the Glen Lakes property. We, the citizens, the residents of Glen Lakes area, are asking you to listen to our voices. The next email is from Lisa Baker. She is in the Beryl District. Thank you for the opportunity to provide resident comments for the public hearing portion of the August 6, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Below are my comments for the Major General Plan and the rezoning. Whereas the immediate operation of the provisions of this ordinance is necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, and safety of the city of Glendale, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, adoption, and approval by the mayor and council of the city of Glendale. And it is hereby exempt from the referendum provisions of the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona. This is the last paragraph of Ordinance 1090, which was passed, adopted, and approved by the mayor and city council of the city of Glendale, Arizona, on the 28th day of August, 1979. In 1979, Saving Glen Lakes was declared an emergency, and the mayor and city council decided Title II and possession of it be acquired by the city by donation, purchase, or under the power of eminent domain for the purpose of establishing a public park for a golf course. Let me read that again from the minutes of August 28, 1979 City Council meeting, a public park for a golf course. In a separate but relevant action in November of 1999, The residents of Glendale passed Go Bond Proposition Number 10 in the principal amount of $53 million. The purpose of this bond was planning and acquiring land and interest therein for the preservation of open space, planning, acquiring, and constructing multi-use trails and linear parks, including but not limited to lighted walkways, play areas, benches, amphitheater, artwork, fountains, landscaping, and equestrian trails, and acquiring land and interest therein as may be needed for such facilities and purposes. In that same election, Glendale residents also passed Proposition Number 7 in the amount of $57.2 million for parks and recreation, and Proposition Number 1 in the amount of $18.2 million for cultural facility and preservation of historic properties. Although the 1999 propositions were nothing to do with Glen Lakes, their passage emphasizes the desire of Glendale residents to maintain, support, and fund open space, parks, historic properties, all three of which Glen Lakes is considered. The residents of Glendale and prior city councils and mayors clearly valued open space and parks. Long before the times of social distancing, and certainly now during, residents turned to the outdoors to connect with their surroundings and neighbors. Indeed, parks and open space speak to the quality of life in a community. To fill in the open space of Glen Lakes, for it to become anything other than public use outdoor space is a betrayal to those residents past and present, those councils, and the community itself, and to the property owners who have invested their lives and finances to live in the shadows of its 50-year-old trees. Public comment periods at council and planning meetings have seen resident after resident come forward against the development of the Glen Lakes parcel, and the community meetings have been filled with residents angry and upset. It appears that very few, if any, Glendale residents actually support the development of the Glen Lakes parcel, aside from the elected officials leading the charge. Glen Lakes is not currently an eyesore dirt lot waiting to fulfill its potential. It is a beautiful habitat of grass, trees, and wildlife that is an integral part of the fabric of the Beryl District and of Glendale itself. A beautiful landscape cut off from its community by chain link fencing at a time that it could be filled with neighbors and community. I understand the Planning Commission recommendation is just that, a recommendation to the City Council and Mayor. It is my hope the Planning Commission and ultimately the Mayor and City Council will consider recommending the entire parcel of Glen Lakes be kept under the land designation of Parks and Open Space to preserve and reimage for future use, to become once again the open space Glendale residents want, need, and deserve, because once it is lost, it will be gone forever.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Crowe.
Yeah, I think, Diane, when you read Proposition 10, you said 53 million. Isn't it 53,000?
Chairperson, Commissioner Crowe, I'm reading the email.
Mine says 53,000. Is it 53,000 or 53 million?
I'm sorry, could you tell me which paragraph?
It is the where are we? 4th paragraph, first sentence. Paragraph starts in a separate but relevant action.
A million,
Million?
yes.
Mine says 53,000.
This was the revision,
Chairperson
wasn't
Hirsch,
it?
Commissioner Crowe, I did distribute a revised email, and that was laid on your desk.
That is correct. Ms.
Got
Baker
it.
had
53 million.
Yeah,
My
had
mistake.
contacted staff and asked to
Thank you, Diana.
revoke her first email and replace it with this second email. So that might be the difference.
Yeah, too many emails there.
But to correct the record, it is, the document that Ms. Baker requested be entered in the record does state 53 million.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Great
Diana.
question. Thank you.
My apologies. All right, okay, and the next email is from Stella Griazio. She indicates she's in the Ocotillo district. Reading the following comment, I'm confused why by state statute, the city is required to conduct 2 public hearings in different locations when considering major map or text amendments to its general plan. Information being heard/shared will be the same regardless of where it's being held. 11550 West Glendale Avenue is quite a distance from our normal meeting locations. I also find it odd the meeting is next to a landfill. When you think of a landfill, you think of unpleasant odors that you have no choice of getting rid of. Kind of like what the city of Glendale is doing to its residents, and it stinks, literally. Not one resident wants the golf course developed. Not one resident wants 173 single-family homes built that don't fit in with the surrounding area and will truly be an eyesore and stick out like a sore thumb. It's all about money, and as we know, more homes mean more money. Has any council member asked for a traffic study of all the areas being developed within Glendale to get a total of all the cars that will be on the roads? You can't keep up with the street repairs now. Next is Craig and Tamalina Griffith. No council district stated. Thank you for allowing me and my wife's comments to be submitted as part of the official record. We will be as brief as we know the committee is pressed for time. We respect that the owner of the property has the right to do what they see fit as long as it meets the codes and requirements of the city. The owner does have an obligation to ensure that any changes to the property fit in and meet the surrounding property's approval. The original drawing showed a development that was beautiful and had green areas. In the newest configuration, the development has very little green area, and the density of the homes are packed on top of one another. What happened to the green areas and why? Why are the plans for entry and exiting of the new, what are the plans for entry and exiting of the new development? How is traffic going to be controlled? This area is already heavily congested, and who will be responsible for any additional improvements for roadways? This should be paid for by the developer, not the taxpayers. If he wants the development so bad, he should be willing to foot the bill for the improvements. Who is responsible for any improvements in sewage and water, as this many new homes will put a stress on our already heavily used system? This should be paid for by the developer and not the taxpayers. If he wants a development so bad, he should be willing to foot the bill for the improvements. With the building of new homes, how is the influx of new students going to be handled? Are new schools going to have to be built, and who is going to pay for these? This should be paid for the developer and not by the taxpayers. If he wants a development so bad, he should be willing to foot the bill for the improvements. These and many more questions come to mind when any new subdivision is developed. In this particular instance, it seems that the city of Glendale is taking the side of profits over that of the community at large. I oppose any infrastructure costs that will be passed on to the taxpayers, and a study be held on the cost of infrastructure costs and those costs paid directly by the landowner/developer, and that no monies come from the taxpayers of the community or the city of Glendale. And last is Scott Rush. He does not indicate, Beryl District. My name is Scott Rush, and I live in Paradise Vistas. As it has been said time and time again by the citizens of the Beryl District, we do not want the sale and ultimate destruction of this beautiful course with its many lakes and 100-year-old trees. Is it too much to ask that in a world that is being paved over at an alarming rate, that we preserve a small oasis in the desert? The course is what makes this neighborhood so unique and special to so many of us citizens. Just put the money grubbing aside for a minute and consider ecological disaster this will cause. The pollution, the heat island, and the extra traffic and the crime. These are very real negative outcomes of this unneeded, unwanted, and quite frankly, ridiculous, short-sighted decision. The majority of this council seems to consistently disregard and with great disrespect the outcry and wishes of the citizens of this community. The course is not just another park that has to be maintained. If done correctly, it can make money for the city by implementing golf programs for schools and tournaments. Market the Tiger Woods donated canopy. and the many other ways it can be marketed. Everything is there. It wants to live. Think of it like this. I'm a car guy, so bear with me. If we had a 1966 Shelby Cobra and it needed some paint and the interior was ripped up, needed new tires, and the motor ran a bit rough, would you just sell it? Absolutely not. You would take the time and effort to restore it back to its former glory, thus making it even more valuable and desirable than ever. Just remember, it's okay to change your mind, and once it's gone forever. Please do the right thing.
Okay, that concludes our email entries. And was there an electronic message?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Phil Erickson, 51st Avenue in northern area, the Beryl District. Chairman Hirsch and commissioners. At the end of the last Planning Commission meeting, Chairman Hirsch stated that the main purpose of the commission was to adhere to the city planning and ordinances as to the rezoning of property presented to them by the council. I understand that this is your objective, but by being appointed to the commission, each member has a delegated duty to the citizens, to the city, but also to the citizens of Glendale. Each of you are citizens of Glendale, but are also appointed members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm sure you're all well aware what is happening in Glendale. Vacant parcels of land in and around the city are being rezoned from agricultural to housing. Land is being annexed and rezoned for commercial and housing use. More industry brings more jobs. More jobs means more people. More people means more homes. This has been the direction of the mayor, city manager, and some members of the council have been moving Glendale in. Growth, 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 without taking into account that with more growth and people, the city will need more parks and recreational area. Many council members, along with city officials, agree that parks and recreation areas are a big asset in bringing businesses into Glendale. The businesses are concerned about what the city has to offer their employees, not only in housing, but also in recreational areas and parks. Glen Lakes Golf Course can be and will be a big drawing card for future businesses. Let's keep it a golf course, which is designed for, not a housing development. The golf course is one of the biggest recreational assets that the city has. At one time, it was considered the most pristine 9-hole golf course in the valley. Don't let the city build a housing development over it. We need the city to give back to the citizens of Glendale the Glen Lakes Golf Course of old, that they conveniently neglected for many years to be the recreational area that is designed for. Glen Lakes Golf Course is a prime example of a recreational area that does not need to and should not be rezoned for housing development. The city needs to bring the golf course back to the operation as a prime recreational site to attract more people to make Glendale their residence instead of Peoria, Surprise, or other suburbs. As delegated members of the Planning Commission and citizens of Glendale, we are asking you to deny the rezoning of the Glen Lakes Golf Course. The city needs this recreational asset. Thank you for your time.
See if we get, there we go. I'm sorry about that. If any member of the public here has decided they want to speak who has not filled out a yellow speaker card, please grab one from the table there and we'll add you to the meeting. So with that, We have 7 speaker cards, which will allow us to grant 5 minutes per speaker this evening. And I remind you to state your name and address for the record. Mr. Tom Cole. Good evening, Mr. Cole. Just a reminder, I'm told these microphones really need to get up close to get a good pickup.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Tom Cole. I live at 5705 West Loma Lane, in the Beryl District, historic Thunderbird Estates. Neighborhood's been there a long time, and we're real proud of it. Live about a half a mile from Glen Lakes. My grandfather used to live in the old Saguaro Trailer Park. It was on the Phoenix side, 43rd Avenue roughly, and Glendale. And our Hobo Joe's is now a Circle K. All the car dealers are gone. Change is inevitable. It is inevitable. We don't always like to see it. But I just submit to you that, and somebody once said it's okay to start a dog pile but not join one. I'm hearing a lot of opposition to this project and these two actions. You'll never be able to replace that green space. If you look mile by mile at the city of Glendale on aerial maps, you see little boxes on top of little boxes on top of little boxes. And then you look at the Beryl District and you see this magnificent patch of greenery. I'm sure some city leaders along the way thought developing Central Park would have been a great idea. And I'm sure developers would have chimed right in on that. But those people had the vision and the foresight to preserve and protect something you could never replace in today's day and age. So I'm just urging to slow this thing down. Let's see what we can do to bring some more thought and some more partnerships and more opportunities to this idea. 173, originally pitched as 100. That changed. I know I'm involved in a few construction projects, and I know the industry's a little dicey right now. The shutdown affected it, and shutdown of factories and stuff affected it. But I also know that housing prices, even in our area, are going through the roof. I'd like to see a feasibility study revisited to make sure that an increase in property values isn't a windfall for the developer. Would it be a viable project with less homes per acre? Questions? I know I'm late to the party, but I don't support the course we're on, and I'd ask you to seriously reconsider these two actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Sandra Monroe. Good evening, Ms. Monroe.
My name is Sandra Monroe. I live at 8002 North 55th Avenue in the Beryl District. I'm right across from the golf course. I'm just really sad and heartbroken about all this. I've lived in Glendale for over 40 years. I've lived where I live now for over 20 years. My kids have learned to golf in that golf course. They're kids. I have friends my age and that have learned to golf there. And I was looking forward to my grandkids learning to golf there. And I think about all the kids in the neighborhood that can learn to golf because of this golf course, or they wouldn't have that opportunity to learn that. And, I don't know, it's just sad. I just hate to see it. And then I don't know what's going to end up in the parking lot of the golf course. I've been told it's going to be businesses. Right in front of my house, we already have a Walmart, banks, and all that stuff. We don't need that. No one in this neighborhood wants that golf course to go away. And it's just sad, and I really hope you guys really consider what would happen if it went away. And like everyone says, you can't get it back. If you get rid of it, it's gone. And it's just sad.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe. Appreciate you coming in. Kathy Wheeler. Good evening.
I don't know how to adjust it to get it
See if we
down.
can get you some technical assistance.
I need a little shorter,
That's okay.
little shorter range, guys.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
it fixed.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chairman and the Commissioners. Good evening to the Glendale staff, and hello to the people that are here. A trouble-free, actually, I believe this was passed to you, a stapled version of what I'm speaking tonight, if you want to follow along with me. The first page is what I'm just starting, and then the other page is the Glendale history. My name is Kathy Wheeler. I live at 5335 West Purdue. I've lived in Glendale for 50 years. 30 years I lived in the Cactus District, and 20 years I've lived in the Beryl District. So good evening again to all of you. A trouble-free and homeless-free neighborhood with a golf course has had open spaces and is surrounded by trees, grass, a lake, and wildlife. That'll be affected by you folks, the commissioners, tonight. What would you do if this was happening in your neighborhood? Would you react the same way, or how would you feel if you'd lived in it for 40 years and it was going to change? Well, the people at the Save Glen Lakes Golf Community Group has been trying to work things out and stop Glendale for 2.5 years now to stop and not build homes. Of course, in 1979, this same group of people were successful, and the mayor, who was Mayor Ridge at that time, and the council voted to emergency and sold bonds to purchase Glen Lakes, and it was purchased that way. The city did listen in 1979 to the neighborhood. So it appears that the current Glendale administration and the city council does not really care what's going to happen to this neighborhood or the future problems that will occur with 173 new homes. The only access into the homes will be on the east side of 53rd Avenue and the west side of 55th Avenue. There is no entrance on Northern. Both of these roads that I mentioned, 53rd and 55th, already have speed bumps on them to stop the speeding that goes down the roads. There is no, as I said, there's no access to Northern. So at this point, when I do a figure of 173 homes times 2 cars, there'll be approximately, when it's full, 346 cars that will be living in a gated community if the buildings are allowed to, the homes are allowed to be built. The small linear park, the 3-sided park, which supposedly is the green area on the outside of the gated community, will have 2 small play areas and some open spaces, and that is that 10 acres you were talking about that's supposed to go for us. Well, the 10 acres certainly is not enough to cover the open spaces in this open spaces in the 3-sided park to accommodate 173 homes and the rest of the neighborhood. That's kind of ridiculous. Secondly, 208 rental homes are currently being built next to the Walmart Neighborhood Market, which is up on Olive, 51st and 53rd Avenue. And that's where the money is and the business is going to come in, is where all these new rental homes are going to be built. And I can answer the question that you asked about what revenue you expect you're going to generate. You're going to be building rental homes. There's no access for anyone that will live up in that area except on the east side of 53rd Avenue. It's the only way in and out of that neighborhood. There's no access to Barber, which is the next street down, because that's closed for emergency vehicles only. So you're going to have 173 homes in Glen Lakes, 208 homes near Walmart, okay, and you put all this with cars and everything, and I've come up to a total of 782 cars for the 2 of them combined when they're maxed out. But what I did was I made it smaller and I divided it in half. So I said, okay, it'll be 391 cars, just because you don't know you're going to have full occupancy all the time. The biggest problem I see is the elementary school is located on Butler and 55th. Butler is the middle of the neighborhood. Some of the children walk to school, And school buses also travel on Butler, as the drop-off point is on 55th and Butler. Butler is the only street to get out of the neighborhood that has a red light, and it's already heavily used. Both of these developments, Glen Lakes and the 208 rental homes, are boxed in, basically, 53rd, 55th. Butler. That's the only way they can get in and out because there's no other access. Olive is too congested already. There's a light at 51st, there's a light at 55th. You can't put a light in at 53rd too. So,
You're timed out.
okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to say, what would you do if this was your neighborhood? And I'm hoping the Planning Commission has listened and will continue to listen and vote no on both of these. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver. I would like to put your mind at ease on one thing, and that is the rental properties that are being built at 51st and Northern. Your Planning Commission insisted that the only access be onto Olive. So, yeah, so a little good news for you there. And, I understand the angst, but I did want you to know that the Planning Commission insisted that access be strictly on. Yeah, that's okay. We're real glad you came in. Thank you. Jerry Rencher? I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Hi, sir. Am I close? Okay, great.
From, there we go, get this on. Jerry Rencher from 5402 West Alice, and I'm in the Beryl District, and have been in that property for many years. My father grew up here, was here in Glendale before me, and I've been here since 1950. And I guess that puts me here for about 70 years. And I guess the reason I wanted to speak tonight is I'm so kind of down and upset about the fact that this end of Glendale, the southeast end of Glendale, is being trashed, basically, as far as I can see. They're taking a lot of open spaces, and they're taking parks and open spaces and turning them into very high-density housing. This example here, you talked about whether it's 42 acres or 36. It's actually less. By the time you subtract out your common areas, your sidewalks and streets, it'll probably be 170-some units on about 20 acres of ground. The one by Walmart, which is 3 blocks the other way from me, is probably going to be 200 units on about the same amount of acreage by the time you pull out all the common areas and you add all the cars. We're in a neighborhood where the city can't even keep up with the roads now as far as keeping them maintained, and they can't keep up with the houses that are allowing the yards to turn to trash. And high weeds and growth and cars being stacked in the front yards and the backyards. The city doesn't even police that. So I know there's no way they're going to police a new unit like this of rentals, and that's what this will turn into, is just a lot of rentals. If you look at southeast Glendale, look at southeast Northern, southeast Dunlap, you can see the kind of blight that's become of those streets. That end of town has turned to terrible. And all the money is being put in Arrowhead and up here at Westgate by the football stadium. And I think the citizens of that area of town are very aware of what's happening to us. We're being turned into a slum. And it's very sad to see. And I've seen it diminish tremendously. I've seen Glendale go down from a great livable community to one where people want to move away from. They want to move to Gilbert or Chandler or to Peoria, to any place but Glendale because of what's happening to our city. We are seeing a lot of open spaces, as the gentleman before me said, being taken away and changed into these high-density housing units that end up Section 8 housing. And that doesn't bring anything but the worst that you could bring into a neighborhood. And everybody's for that Section 8 housing until it's in their neighborhood. And then when it's in their neighborhood, they don't want any part of it. And I just want to speak as a resident from that neighborhood saying we feel very against it and very much opposed to it and would prefer that it stay a park as it was planned many years ago by the city that had a lot of forethought about its citizens at that time and concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in, sir. Fred Beyer II. Welcome back, Mr. Beyer.
Thank you. Fred Beyer, 5214 West Harmont Drive, Glendale, Beryl District. A couple of things that Ms. Collins had said, consistent with desired lifestyles. Whose? Apparently not the residents around there, maybe the developer, maybe the city officials, but it's not consistent with the lifestyles that everyone else around there wants. She talked about the MD5 at Manistee Ranch. If you look at that compared to all the other neighborhoods, it looks like a prison. They're all isolated from the community. It doesn't bring anything to that community. So yeah, there is the MD5 south of Northern, off of 53rd, between 53rd and 51st. But when you drive by there, it looks like a prison. And that's what's probably going to happen when you do that to Glen Lakes. She talked about it being costly to the city. Apparently it wasn't costly in '79. When did it start becoming costly? And she said golf is declining. Yet over by Westgate, you have Top Golf. Apparently it's not declining that much. If you put some money back into that course, that was a very playable course. I learned to golf there. I went to Glendale High School, and we practiced there. There is use, there is interest in that. But again, as officials, you're supposed to be a representative of the community. That's not what's happening here. It seems like private interest is what the officials and what the mayor, which hopefully in November it'll be reflected, since they're choosing not to listen to us. You know, we are watching, and we're taking notes. It is a nice park. You look down the end of the street, and there's nice open spaces. I don't want to look at walls like what Manistee has become with that development there. And then you can see the little park green spaces between the bars because they have it all blocked off. So there might be some green space, but again, it's going to be walled off just like everything else. So please make the right decision and do not approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Frederick Byer, Frederick A. Byer, G. Byer, Senior. Welcome back, sir. Take your time.
Members of the commission, I moved to Glendale. I wasn't born here. I moved to Glendale October the 8th of 1963. In 1965, I bought my first house. I've lived 7 houses from Glen Lakes for 43 years. If I was to move to Glendale today as a new resident, I don't think I'd move here. After a council meeting, I talked to a former council member from the Northern District, and I asked her, I said, why don't you fix Glendale? She said it would be unfair to take money from the rest of the city to fix something for one district. And I said, well, do you have any regrets, or is it unfair that you take something from one district, sell it, and use it to fix the rest of the city? She would not answer me. I understand you have no final decision like the council does. But where I came from in Connecticut, why I moved out here was what's happening right here. Houses on top of houses, good neighborhood gone bad because of turnover. Nobody takes care of their property anymore. I know you don't have the final say. When I was chairman of the Board of Adjustments and we denied the original request to change from A1 to R4 at the time back in '79, it was altogether different atmosphere. And if people had known that down the road it was going to be 173 homes on 50 feet, basically all 50-foot wide lots, you can't do anything on the 50-foot lot. You can't have anything in the backyard. You can't park a car in the backyard. You can't get a car past the houses, you know. I know you don't have the final say, but you do have some influence. Please, turn it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Yes, we hope, as commissioners, we hope that city council will take our recommendation on any item that comes before the commission. You know how that works. Rob Gruber? Mr. Gruber, did you wish to speak? You have 5 minutes, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening, Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Rob Goopser. I work for Hilgart Wilson, 2141 East Highland. I'm here representing Homes by Town. Homes by Town has a purchase and sale agreement to acquire this property, and we've been working closely with the city to come up with the site plan and the development standards to bring the development to fruition. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point. Open for discussion if you have any.
Commissioners, any questions? I guess not at this time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you coming in. That's the last of the speaker cards. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to speak on this item? Anyone else here that'd like to speak on this item? Ms. Collins, any closing remark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've taken some notes, and I'm happy to follow up at the next hearing with any discussion or any questions that the commission has, but I have no further comments this evening. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. With that, the chair will close the public hearing on Glen Lake's Major General Plan Amendment MGPA 20-01 and Glen Lake Subdivision Rezoning Application ZON 19-17. Again, the commission is not voting tonight. Pardon me. We anticipate at least a third meeting regarding these two applications. Ms. Collins, is there any other business this evening?
No, Mr. Chairman, there is not. Thank you.
Commissioners, any comments or suggestions? Ms. Collins, is there a staff planning report?
No, Mr. Chairman, there is not. Thank you.
Thank you. The next meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled for August 20th, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the Glendale Civic Center, 5750 West Glen Drive, and we anticipate that the current COVID-19 protocols will still be in place for that meeting. I have one closing thought, and that is that it's still very, very hot outside, so if you have pets that you have outside, please remember to provide adequate shade and fresh water. They're really depending on us. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Commission is adjourned.